Despite what their moms told them, they just aren't talented enough for radio. Unfortunately, anyone can have a show these days. Sean.
Well, I'm pretty hard to figure out sometimes. In fact, I can't even figure myself out sometimes, so don't you try to.
Joe.
You're an idiot. And really a disloyal person.
This is the Cuse Militia. Now, those two unapologetically biased orange-blooded homers, Sean and Joe.
It's the most bullshit thing I've seen in 30 years.
Welcome, orange men and ladies. Happy Sunday. This is the Cuse Militia with Sean and Joe at Cuse Militia on the socials. Go there, join the militia. Live on Twitter X, starting in 2 weeks. Believe it or not. Here with Joe, and Tyler's joining us as well to just do a little, a little spitballing for Syracuse football and a little preview of this, that, and the other. Put a bunch of stuff out on Twitter. We can talk about some of that. And, just getting ready for what will be full-blown season in under 2 weeks now. So the summer's dwindling down, unfortunately. But
no, fortunately, man, it's way too hot down here.
Dude.
Way too hot.
Well, that's too bad that you hate
Sean's
the heat.
Gonna fight that every time.
I love the heat. I don't know. I think Syracuse ruined me. I can't do the cold. I'd rather be 95 than 65 or 95 than 75 any day of the week.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, you got beaches? No way. You kind of don't, do you?
No, dude. We have the end of the earth. Like it's just like it's like land and then just like dirty water after.
I got you.
On the third coast, they call it, and it's not great, man.
Well, there's so much wind off of the Atlantic here that you go to the beach and you don't really feel it. You go to the beach, you don't feel it. You go in the water, and then you just come back looking like a lobster. So.
All right, man. We'll rub it in.
Yeah.
Joe, how about you? How's your summer going? Is it too hot for you too?
It's been super hot, actually. Yeah, so I'm ready for it to go.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not asking for a lot, man. I'm just asking for below 100 for it goes like 95 to 100 plus for 100 straight days, and it's like we also had a hurricane that got thrown in this year. We had a straight line tornado that got thrown in this year in Houston. So like, I'm ready for that to just not happen anymore and go to like 80. Like, I'm not asking for a lot. Like 85, I'm great. The springtime when it's 75, and granted, being from Los Angeles, that's what spoiled me. It was that it was like 78 most of the year. And then, for a couple weeks it was 98. But, it's, I don't know, man. I'm just, as I'm getting older, I'm like, how do I just, try to rid myself of all these problems, but it just doesn't exist. So there's no way to make it happen. So I just get grouchy.
Yeah. What was your hurricane was our just 3 days of really shitty weather for us in Virginia. It was just rainy, and it was so broke up by the time it got here that it was like, it would dump and then it would stop for a half hour and then it would dump. You know what I mean? It was kind of a mess for about 3 days. So yeah, anyway.
It's supposed to be Thursday morning. It's supposed to be like high 50s here when I wake up. So I'm actually going to enjoy that Thursday.
Are you serious?
Mm-hmm.
Usually we have similar weather, so yeah, I don't have that. I don't have that.
I would sleep outside if that was the case, man. Like, Lord have mercy. But anyway.
I mean, the summer can be, they can be so hot there. You're just like, oh my gosh, it's just brutal. I mean, sometimes it can be uncomfortable. Like, absolutely.
Well, and it's just unrelenting. Like, it's just, it never, there's no break in the action, which is tough. Like, I can't, like you said, go to the, like, if I could just quickly, and now we're talking weather, so it's like, if I could just go to the beach real quick and it would be all great, then I would make that hour trip a lot more than we never do. So,
anyway. Syracuse football.
Yes, please.
Have you been? Are you up to speed? Have you been paying attention? You've been watching the things and reading the things and all that stuff in preparation for the upcoming season? Or you just kind of got your finger on the pulse of it here and there, kind of like me, or what?
I'm dialed all the way. I don't think I've actually been more dialed in than I am right now. I don't think I've been as, it's funny about the post Camping World Bowl to preseason. That was probably when, that's when I was doing my podcast. That's when I was the most, I was young and really didn't have anything going on. And so I was, really into it and really made a point to try to learn about as much as with our opponents and figuring out where the ACC was going and all this stuff. But now I'm to the point where I'm very familiar with who's on the team, all the coaches and whatnot. But I'm really just trying to get an understanding of like how good are we relative to the competition now, because I think I've watched the spring game like 4 times, watched the offense only twice, and then watched the defense only twice. And I'm really excited. And the crazy part about the spring game was that it was only 80% of our talent was on that game compared to where we're at now. So now I'm pretty dialed in.
What do you, and we, Joe, you can answer this too. What are you most looking forward to? Like, I know that there's I have a short list, but if you got to pick one, what is the thing you're going to be most, what do you want to see the most?
It's a combo of the same thing. So downfield passing accuracy out of our starting quarterback, and then offensive line stability. So if we have no offensive line stability, we have no downfield passing and vice versa. So that's I'm very confident in our defense because we brought back all of our best players and we added more good players. So I really have no issues with them whatsoever.
I mean, just through listening to like LeQuint and a couple other guys, just going to YouTube videos and checking out post-practice interviews and stuff like that, they're pretty excited about the offensive line. I mean, this has been something that's been a huge question mark for since we've been doing this podcast, pretty much. Yeah. Which is this will be our 8th season. So
how many offensive linemen do we bring in? Like 8 offensive linemen total between transfers and freshmen? Do you remember?
I don't know the whole. I know that we brought in. I know at least 4 from transfers. Yeah. I know we got Weatherspoon, who was at HBCU All-American from Howard, which I guess he's lining up at left tackle right now. And we brought in another guy from Grambling State. Brought in Josh Miller from Georgia. And, Savion Washington.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
He started at Colorado, and I think that he's right now at the right tackle. So, I mean, and Weatherspoon and Washington are some big bodies.
Yeah.
So one thing that I am definitely looking forward to, like you said, I mean, it's got to be Kyle McCord, but obviously we know as Syracuse fans that we need a good offensive line. I mean, we haven't had a good offensive line since Dungy's senior year, right? I mean,
right.
And now we know that it's a situation where I don't think a starting quarterback has finished the season in quite some time. So that's going to be the main thing, like you said. And just him bringing in the size, we returned 4 starters from last year. Plus, we were injured. So there's a bunch of players that still got a bunch of reps. And then we bring in these other guys that were really good at other schools. And on top of that, hopefully Wallaba's coming back healthy as well. So
right.
I think that our offensive line is as deep as it's been in quite some time. But with me, it's Kyle McCord. Like, he makes one pass last year, and they're in the playoff, right? Or they're going into they'd be in the playoff. They would have won the Big Ten championship, and he probably would have been staying at Ohio State, right? So,
right.
He goes.
He would be gone,
or that
NFL,
right? Or he'd be in the NFL, right?
Yeah.
So. But because of he goes to the transfer portal, he goes to Syracuse, and all of a sudden he's getting zero respect, right? I feel like if he would have transferred to a more prestigious school in another Power 4 conference, I think people would be all over him. But having him ranked 8th or 10th in just the ACC for quarterbacks, this dude's got a huge chip on his shoulder. Even though Ohio State had a great roster, great team last year. You still got to be a good quarterback to put up the numbers that he put up. So, to me, that guy's got a chip on his shoulder like no other. He just wanted a coach that was going to say, here's the keys, and show him that they were confident in him being the leader. And Fran Brown did that the minute that he went into the transfer portal. And, and to me, it's him. To me, it's him all the way, because if he is what I think he is, then this year could be pretty special.
Yeah, I agree. 100%.
He passed for over 3,100 yards last year, which is not too shabby, right? And then, he
had a good touchdown to interception ratio too.
Very good.
Was it
3-4 to 1, something like that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't understand. I don't understand the negative drama. I think a lot of that is, obviously Ohio State fans. I think they're pissed off. First of all, how last year ended, but then he leaves, and I think they knew what they had anyway. So I think that's just jealousy. Honestly, I only think it bodes well for any leader of anything, sport or otherwise, to have to be playing or doing their job with a chip on their shoulder. I think that always bodes well. And for as professional as he sounds like he is, I mean, he sounds like guys love him. He gets a ton of respect from coaches. I've heard mentioned more than once about his leadership, and just in what I've seen, just through, clips of practice and stuff. I mean, he's on point.
Since day one.
He can throw a ball, dude. There's no doubt about it. And his ability to read defenses, if there's guys saying if you don't disguise defense, he's gonna blow you up. So I'm excited for Zeke Haynes too, man. I really am.
Agreed. He's on the other half of the receiving end of my downfield passing.
Yeah. Speed, baby. That dude's got some speed. So I think
that's what he brought in, right? He brought in big bodies, brought in speed. I mean, that he got the confidence that the people around him, the coaches around him, can pretty much coach up everybody, and I think essentially, even with Kyle McCord too, I don't think it's going to be a situation where we're going to ask him to, it ain't going to be a spread offense, throw the ball 40 times a game. I mean, you're talking about, we got big bodies and we got good running backs. We got a good running back room, really good running back room.
Yeah, and tight ends, by the way.
And tight ends and receivers.
That's our strongest room.
Tight ends.
Yeah.
Because Dan Villari, I mean, as much as it was kind of, he had some good catches, some nice, tight end looking plays, right? But then just the confidence that I think fans and he got those last couple of games when he was running the Wildcat, I mean, at this point, that guy, I mean, he's a beast to me. And I just feel like, using him, Arande Gatson, I mean, Jamie Tremble was probably our best recruit that came out of high school, out of Georgia. So having those tight ends, having LaQuinn Allen coming back with Will Mixon transferring from Washington, and Yassine Willis looked like an animal in the spring game.
He is. He's young Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're not even talking about the receivers. You have a great group of just running and, guys that you can check down to as far as tight ends and stuff like that. And then, to Tyler's point, that's going to open up downfield for the Zeke Haynes and the Amari Hatchers and Trevor Peñas and stuff like that. So it's going to be real interesting. And there's other names too. I mean, Darryl Gill's been playing good. We got Justice Ross Simmons from Colorado State, Jackson Meeks. It's
unbelievable. When have we been able to list 6 wide receiver names before the first game? Never. 3 tight ends. It's just what's so exciting to me is that, unfortunately, with football, injuries are inevitable. Braylon Ingram already went down, but I'm not afraid to lose. The wrong guy obviously ends the entire season, and you can never plan on that, and you can never build. And obviously, one of the big narratives around campus is the backup quarterback, but obviously, it only matters if number 6 goes down, and that's the worst case scenario. I never hope that's the case, obviously, because it's happened to us every other year. And it's funny that at a certain point in time, the trend does have to go back the other direction, and okay, well, at some point, a quarterback does have to start every game, and I really hope it's this year, or it's in a situation where if we get to UConn and Kyle throws 2 passes and we're like, what, dude, these guys are terrible. Let's just throw Jakari in. Or, maybe that's where we see somebody go get a lot of reps. But it's not for, him being out. But we can sustain a couple of skill position injuries if it happens, God forbid, and still be just fine.
Yeah, everywhere.
Has that ever been the case?
Everywhere
since I've been on campus, which was over 10 years ago now.
I mean, last year, Gatson and Peña went down, and it was like, crap, who are you supposed to throw it to, right? and then Schrader goes down. I mean, I don't know. It's a situation where, like you said, that's the one main thing that I've been most happy about, and it's pretty much almost every single position except for, like you said, in the quarterback. And we don't even really know if that's the case, right? I mean, right now we don't know how good Michael Johnson Jr. is.
Right.
They said that he has a chance to take second string over Carlos Del Rio Wilson. I think I don't want to speak for everybody. I mean, not to say that he can't get better, but
I think we know what we have there.
Yeah.
Well, we've seen he struggles against competition. Anything in the ACC, he's just struggled.
Yeah, entirely. And it's, he reminds me a lot. The Cowboys have Trey Lance now, and the athleticism's tantalizing, obviously, but it's just the progressions are difficult for. It's like he lacks nothing except for the ability to play the position, which is tough when you are trying to play quarterback. So.
Yeah.
In all fairness, I mean,
Jordan Love.
He's been dealing with that offensive line too since he's been there. So, I mean, not that that's. I'm not making an excuse. I'm just saying for someone who doesn't have experience or confidence in what they're doing. I mean, that not for anything. Like you said, I mean, these quarterbacks aren't going down because they're got protection.
Right. Yeah. They didn't get hurt after the 8th second of protection on a play.
So, I mean, and I'm not knocking any one person. I'm just saying it's been a struggle. I feel
good point.
I feel confident, like going forward in the ability to pull something out of the transfer portal and having a Jakari Williams, who we've heard good things about from coaches and players. I feel good going forward. However, still shaky this year. Michael Johnson Jr. is, it seems to be. I mean, coaches are impressed. I mean, he's neck and neck with Carlos Del Rio Wilson. Now, look, I think that these coaches have made these players better, and I can only assume that just through reading and watching words that are coming out of their own mouths. Right? I mean, they're not going to talk negative. Fair. So you're going to hear a lot of good stuff, right? But I think that this is a different culture, and I think that there's a possibility that Carlos Del Rio Wilson is better. Maybe he's gotten better. Maybe the coaching's better, the culture's better. These guys are living together. I mean, that's the roster's better. The roster's better, but as a student athlete, how much of a game changer, or maybe not, would it be to live with these guys every day? You're at practice with them. You're at the dorms with them. This is like we heard about preaching Ohana and this and that before, but I think they're living it now. Right. It's a little different.
It's dark now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Well, I guess I'll respond as a former player. It's the hardest position for me to kind of like associate with this quarterback because it's so different than all the other ones. And so like when I try to evaluate that position, I really have to do it from almost like a fan or a coach's perspective rather than a player's perspective. But the number one thing that happened to me when I got on campus was when we started lifting weights in the off season. My senior year, I really plateaued at some levels of strength, and I think what happened was that since I was one of the stronger guys on the team, I didn't see what was possible relative to the style of training that we had. And as soon as I went and surrounded myself with guys where I was now in the bottom 50% rather than the top 10%, my strength ended up going. My strength increased by 25% right off the bat from lifting with guys that were going to be, all conference type players and guys that were just weight room All-Americans at the Power 5 level. And it wasn't something that we did differently. There wasn't a huge difference in training. It was just I was exposed to stuff at a much higher level. So I understood what it took to get there, recover, and do it again faster and grow. And so to your point with Carlos, if everybody that comes in is better, Kyle's better, the guy that's in front of him is better, he's teaching him how to read by just watching him play. A better offensive coordinator comes in, better receivers come in, and a more solidified line come in. You would think naturally the only place to go is up, right? Right. And so I can make that assumption there, but is it by no means, and maybe we're just beating this horse into the ground again, but he's never going to be Kyle McCord. So he's a backup for a reason. And so that's my only takeaway there is like, look, I'm more excited about Jakari than some of these other guys because there's a longer runway for him to get way better relative to how he started.
Right. And I mean, there's always the portal. I have a lot of confidence in these coaches in the portal to get what they need.
They have relationships too, which are really, I mean, to get Fidel Diggs, a guy that was a captain at A&M, and to get our defensive coordinator, Elijah Robinson, who they were offering probably double what we offered. And he was like, no, I'm leaving. And by the way, I'm taking my favorite player with me. Yeah. Like that's, to me, living in Houston, which is basically A&M's battleground, all the alumni live here. They were like befuddled at how that was even possible. They were, that was the first time in my life. Never in my life did I think that Syracuse and A&M would have something in common, and here we are.
Yeah. And when that happened, you saw all those relationships that you spoke of, like all the Philly area guys, New Jersey area guys. They all ended up. I mean, Yassine Willis is a Philly guy, right? And pretty sure, and
Jersey or Philly, yeah,
he's Jersey.
Tank.
So Yassine Willis was Jersey. He flipped. Emmanuel Ross was Jersey. He flipped. Jalen Hornsby was Jersey. He flipped from Texas A&M. I mean, when did earlier? I mean, Babers, he'd flip guys from like Western Michigan or it's
right.
Fran Brown comes in 2 months, and all of a sudden we got the best recruiting class that we've had in like how long? I mean,
20 years. And he put it together in 10 days.
Yeah, like I think he ended up the 37-ish with the high school recruiting. Mm-hmm. Our transfer ranking was 24th, which gave us like an overall ranking of 36. Like I don't think we've broken 50 with Dino. So
no.
So it's just the amount of talent that came in is kind of ridiculous. But it's not just the talent like that just came in from transfers that can help us win today, but it's also those high school recruits that are going to be. I mean, they're going to be sniffing the field this year. They'll be sniffing the 2 deep this year. You give them 1.5 years of development, and I mean, it's going to be scary in my opinion, especially considering you look at 2025 recruiting class and it looks like it's probably going to be pretty similar.
That's as far as I go as 2024 recruiting class.
The ones that are on campus.
That's as far as I go. Okay, not for anything. We had some 2026ers Joe brought to my attention, and
no, Dom did.
No, you brought to my. You brought to Dom. Dom is looking at the 9-year-olds that have committed to Syracuse right now. Now I'm talking about you brought to my attention that they have decommitted already, which is why I don't even know their names, and that's the reason why. And that's no disrespect. I'm just saying. Okay, you ain't wearing orange yet. I don't care. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's a waste.
I thought it was a little ridiculous with those fans. They were like, "Oh, we're top 10 in 2026 recruiting class," and it's like,
that's too much.
Granted, a lot of our 25 class has already gone on their official visit, and so once it gets to that point, from my perspective as a former recruit, you've narrowed it down to like, look, at worst we're in the top 3. So yes, people can decommit, but like, there's a lot of guys, and we don't have to make this, future casting for, our class that year, but it's really incredible. I mean, just the difference to have like 30 guys committed versus like Dino was, and I don't want to talk badly about, I mean, he was struggling to get 20 guys to commit, so it's so different.
Yeah, and I know 2025 sounds out there, Sean, because, we haven't started the 2024 season. But to be fair, I mean, we are 4 months away from the early
signing day. Yeah, right? Exactly.
So it is getting pretty relevant.
I get it. To each their own. Look. Let's do this. We talked a lot about offense, okay? But you've got, we talk about depth, man. I mean, look at linebackers and look at DBs. Are also on the rise too. I mean,
100%.
Big time. I thought I was really impressed by this Clarence Lewis, who looks like he's going to be on the field quite a bit, probably starting. I would think maybe. Who didn't get to play a ton at Notre Dame, but when he was out there, he did okay. But it's just exciting to grab guys like that for me. from Notre Dame and things like that, and
100%.
see these guys come and play. I mean, Ohio State, Alabama, Notre Dame. I mean, it's a big deal. We got a little bit of everything, and the linebackers too. Like I was saying, we talked about a couple of them already, but it's exciting. I think new defensive scheme, got more of a pro style offense, and
defense.
Okay, fair, yeah.
In my opinion, yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
3-3-5 is a little gimmicky. 4-2-5 gets ran in the NFL. Which is what
we're running. But
right.
Did you hear there was a really big aside that somebody made, and I was trying to remember who it was. I've watched all the clips. I've been consuming as much Q's football stuff as possible. But I think I'm trying to remember what offensive lineman it was. But he said that in an interview, I think it was during spring ball, he said, our defense was relatively effective in the conference, but it really messed us up when practicing because nobody else ran that defense. And so he said by bringing in a more pro-style, traditional style defense, the offense is getting better at a more rapid speed because it's more translatable to the ACC. And, it's funny that it didn't actually hit me until he said that to go, yeah, you're right. But if we played another 3-3-5 team, we probably would have been really good. But 10 teams run that in the whole country.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really hit me until he said that. And I was like, wow, that's a really good point.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'd never really even thought about that. But, yeah, it absolutely does.
Yeah. And to think that now we have bigger defensive linemen that are more translatable to your Clemsons, your Florida States, all that stuff too. It's like they're actually going to get a look at what it's going to be like to play in these Power 4 games now. So that's what really made it. It's just the whole team is just going the right direction.
You think it lasts? Does it hinge on what we do this year? Is it, you know what I'm saying? We've been... I haven't been promised, but all but promised, Sure. There's a timeline that Coach Brown has put on his tenure here, and it's right around 10 years, right?
Right.
So, just judging by the first year, they've developed these relationships already with some of these kids, but they were with different schools. Does that change as time goes on? Elijah Robinson, probably not a 10-year guy. Okay.
No, definitely.
Okay, so he's huge. He's a big time recruiter. He's done a tremendous job at Texas A&M, like you mentioned, and here and bringing guys with him. Right. So there's a head coaching job maybe somewhere for him down the road, and he's not going to be here 10 years. So to make it sustainable is the next question. Before you figured 10 years, this whole sport's flipped on its head, and college sports in general flipped on their head. Its head in the past 2 years.
Right.
What's it going to look like in 10 years when you've got two conferences, just like the NFL,
right?
Going, you know what I'm saying? Going after one trophy, right?
Yeah, I get it.
So,
and I was on the team 10 years ago.
That's crazy.
Right.
So
see how much has changed from just yeah. So look, Elijah Robinson isn't going to get a head coaching job if we don't do good. Right, or if his defense doesn't play good, right? So realistically, I think that between Elijah Robinson and Fran Brown and Nick Johnson and the recruiting that they have, and then, obviously the New Jersey and Philly area seems to be kind of locked down pretty good.
In New York.
Right. I don't see a situation where just 1 year, we'd have to be extremely bad, I think, for that to affect recruiting. Right. We've gone, 6 wins, 7 wins. The expectations are high, but I don't think 1 year is going to kill their situation as far as relationships with kids that they've been recruiting for years in the area. So
I don't think so. I think my point is I think the recruiting is really good right now because of where they were and the caliber they could recruit and the relationships they made. Now, their positions are elevated. Fran Brown's is elevated, but he's with a smaller school. It's
right.
not. It's not.
I see where you're going.
It's
with
not
that.
Georgia. It's Syracuse, New York. Geographically, not a lot of people want to play in Syracuse, New York. Do you see what I'm saying? So right now, the get it while the getting's good kind of thing. But in a couple years, I mean, does it fall off because of where he's at? I'm not knocking Syracuse, but I'm knocking Syracuse a little bit. That's what I'm saying.
Sure. I mean, at this point, to me, he's kind of the master chef, right? Like, he's brought all the right ingredients to the table, or to the stew, and as long as he can keep turning it, and it keeps coming up the way that he says it's going to, then he actually is kind of doing what Dino was preaching, like the belief without evidence type of deal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is funny that the next guy is actually doing is what he said. But here's the infectious part about football, in my opinion.
Time out. How long could you go with belief without evidence, bro? Like
3 years, and what was it, 8?
Still waiting for that cake.
It was 6. It was 6 too. It was 6 too many. That cake is toast.
Yeah,
it's been in the oven way too long.
Yeah, that thing was way overdone. But
all right, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. And it's somebody, all the fans, they're trying to, in my opinion, on Twitter, like, grasp the past while having excitement for the future, and everyone has just kind of landed on like the 10-3 season, while it was amazing to have, was like the worst thing possible for the program, which is such like a counterintuitive way to think, because it got Dino 5 extra years of a job, or 6 extra years, or however long it was.
Yeah, how long ago was that?
What was that?
How long ago was that?
That was 18, right?
Was it?
Pretty sure I got you the towel.
Yeah, I was looking at the towel. There's no date on it. It's hanging up.
Yeah. It's when I moved to Houston, so I know it was 2018 for sure.
Yeah, it was, because the next year was when we played a Tommy DeVito-led team with no fans during COVID.
Yeah, December 28th, 2018 was Camping World Bowl.
Yep.
Oh, man.
There is a date on it. My hat was covering it.
All good. But, I think Fran is going to build. So the biggest thing with football is where I was going with that is, like, if he does produce guys to the NFL, all conference, just relative successes for their position or for what they're looking for, guys are just going to follow. Like, it's not hard to, recruit a 16 through 18-year-old and then a 19, 20-year-old that's in college to say, hey, look, we have what you're looking for. Here's the proof. That's all a young man, in my opinion, after going through that, is looking for. Is like, look, here's the things that I want. If you can match kind of these qualifiers, which is I want to be on a tough football team that gives me a chance to win games in a good conference, and then also try to have that, shot at the NFL. There's only 20 schools that can say that. So now you're at least down to a 5% chance you get any player you want. And then it starts to increase if they're in those neighborhoods that and all that stuff. So long as we don't have to win the conference and go to the playoff and then be a Final Four team, I think it goes into hyperdrive of what Fran Brown's plan is if we do that this year. And maybe there's a chance, who knows, maybe there's a chance we do that. But a top 20 finish validates everything that he said, and I think it just keeps the stew turning, like I said.
I think it comes down to, for Fran Brown, he's such a genuine, a genuine guy, and his personality is as quiet and calm as he is. He's charismatic. I think he practices what he preaches. He's not blowing smoke up anybody's ass. I feel like when he says something, you can believe it. You know what I mean? From day one, his first press conference, I don't think he nibbled around any edges of anything. He kind of laid a couple strong things out. You know what I'm saying? So he's not trying to win people over that, with BS. You know what I mean? He's kind of he's a real guy, and you got to be a real guy in that position, I think, to succeed. And I think that he's right. Well, he's beyond a likable guy. For as calm and even keeled as he seems he is, he's an extremely likable guy. So
and to me, that just exudes confidence, right? When someone and they carry themselves that way, and then they actually, do what they say, right? Yeah. And they actually are a man of their word. I just think that just exudes confidence, and it's trust too. And he talks about the type of kids that want to come here. He talks about faith and family and getting degrees and becoming, good men and leaders and all that stuff. Like, if you can get success and a chance to the NFL, and then he does provide all that for you as, a young adult, those type of players that have that type of mindset and mentality, it's going to be easy to trust. It's going to be easy to follow, just like Tyler said.
Our NIL base has raised to the point where we can afford some guys. Maybe not every guy, but we can afford 10 guys.
Right, and yes, definitely. But at the same time, we also know that there are probably a handful of damn transfers we have on this team that could have got more money somewhere else, but they chose here because of Fran Brown and some of the other coaches and relationships that they have. So, to me, these guys, they're not full of shit. I hate picking on Dino, and I talked to a buddy yesterday, and we were talking about it as well. And my buddy was just like, he thought when it came down to it that Dino said the right things, but he was a little lazy, and even listening to some of the conversations, he'd always have, maybe he'd say something, and instead of being confident and like Fran Brown, he always had that little awkward laugh at the end, right? Like,
maybe it's not. Maybe it's not.
You know what I mean? I'm not trying to poo-poo the guy because I think he's a good guy, but it's like when you compare one to the other, and you can kind of go back and look at some of the things he said. It's like, I trust this guy just because of the way that he, exudes his whole, just everything with Dart, with everything. I love it.
I think I don't know if it was laziness or if it was just the fact that he couldn't command a room the way Fran does. Just take a look at, like, I think it's a respect thing. So I think if Fran Brown says, hey, if you don't live in the dorm, X, Y, and Z is going to happen. Right? Or whatever.
Yeah, right. Maybe laziness is the wrong word. Right? It's
like the parent that throws out the empty threats. Okay? And over time, that kid's just going to not respect your threat anymore because you're full of it. And I think that Dino was Dino was a little soft on discipline. I think it showed.
And Dan Villari talked about that last year, coming from a program from Michigan, right? He had said some things like that. And then I think a little bit of what my buddy was talking about too was like not even like going above and beyond to get out to the community or to get out to the old players, that unlike what Fran Brown is, he's trying to get all the old players to come back, get all the alumni back, and he didn't really want anything to do with it. So there was things that Dino could have done to go above and beyond to help his team and to help himself realistically, and he just didn't do it. I think that's where my buddy was coming from with it.
Well, that makes a little bit more sense.
Well, I think beyond that too, it's like, look, if you want to say, hey, look, the dorms is a great example. You don't live in the dorms, you don't play, and then Dan Villari's going, no one, you don't want the guy behind me to play. Then you're out of a job, right? So there is no, power to that threat. If the starters are the only playable players, they hold all the power. Right. But if there are 30 guys waiting to take one spot, that's when there is motivation to actually comply. Yeah. And then secondarily, it was very evident because I remember Michael and I talking last year, Michael Lasker, for those who are listening, former left tackle, my roommate, best friend. We would talk all the time. Why do we have 15 penalties on offense every game? It's false starts. It's this. It's that. It's like
pre-snap shit.
That is directly discipline. Obviously, the punishment would not fit the crime, or else we would have at least gone from 15 a game to 3. And they were all in crucial situations. We could never get out of our own way. It was just things like there was self-combustion. And to me, that is someone that, and when I always see this in the NFL, whenever a good coordinator that is a bad head coach takes a head coaching job, those are the types of things that happen. And I think that Dino is a good coordinator, but is not a good head coach. And I think we'll maybe see some of that with Arizona. Somewhat similar with Schaefer to a lesser extent, because he was all about the discipline, and he kind of went really far on that. We're going to be tough-nosed and all that. And then he was kind of somewhat weak on how the pie was made in the background with some of the recruiting stuff. He just wasn't as great of a recruiter as Fran is. But I think he had the right idea, and then went to go be a coordinator and did a good job again. So it's just, I think Fran's kind of the opposite, where it's like, I think he's a good position coach, but home run, number one recruiter in the country, and I think he's just got the mentality of how to be the CEO of a $100 million business, right? Like, he is the guy to make that happen. So
yeah, and dude, I'm right there with you, because that was something I was going to bring up. Fran Brown, never been a coordinator, right? Never been a head coach, and he speaks about that. About, he's been around a lot of good teams, a lot of good coaches, a lot of good coordinators, and he knows that he's genuine and he can get players to come, recruits to come, but he understands that he's not the smartest man in the room, but he's a great leader. So, like you said, he's going to be the head coach. He's still going to be into the recruiting because that's what he's best at, right? He's going to be over there with the defensive backs because that's what he's best at. But realistically, his leadership of understanding and not having an ego and saying, I need to surround myself with people that are smarter than me and know better than me. And not only am I going to learn from them, but these guys are going to have, they're going to have key contributions in the decisions that we make as a team. It's not just going to be me saying, I know everything, I make all the calls. Like, I think a lot of this stuff, he's going to let the coordinators, he's going to give them, he's going to give them their leash to be able to go ahead and do what they need to do, do what's best for the team. And I think that's what makes the best leaders, I think, whether it's business or coaching.
100%.
Real quick, we've got predictions to do. I want to get to some of these believe it or nots that I put on Twitter. Joe did some homework. He had some free time and went ahead and weighed out how much Syracuse won in the transfer portal this year.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed it's not a Google sheet or a spreadsheet or some kind of spreadsheet. But that's okay. He went old school with it. Okay, he brought out the legal pad and he put a pen to paper and he got it done. So Joe, he told me a little bit about it. I wanted you to save it for the show so you don't have to waste your breath twice. So go ahead.
This is really exciting, by the way. So I'm really fired up for this.
It's not basically what I wanted to.
You better deliver, Joe. He's excited.
Yeah, come on, man. What I wanted to do was I wanted to look at our outgoing transfers versus our incoming transfers is essentially what I did. And a lot of times, as you get a coaching change, that we're going to lose some players just based on scheme, right? We're going to get some good players that we lose. But when we talk about the talent, we already talked about the high school recruitment class. We already know that. And we already can see the talent that came in. But to put things in perspective, I went through and we had 28 transfers that left our team from last year. And out of those 28, only 7 of those guys ended up transferring to Power 4 or comparable conference teams, right? Wow. Jeremiah Wilson, Damian Alford. I think Jeremiah Wilson went to Houston. Alfred went to Utah. Kevon Darton went to Arizona. Bryce Cohoon went to Kansas. Steph Thompson went to Nebraska. Leon Lowry, Wisconsin. And Joe Moore, Arkansas. Other than that, you look at it, another one went to the Conference USA. 3 more went to the MAC. 2 more went to the Mountain West. 3 to the Sun Belt. 4 haven't even decided on a college. And 5 went to Division I AA schools. So when you really look at it, only a quarter of the players that we lost went to comparable, obviously, and we can talk about the Big 12 where they have 16 teams and the Big 10 have 18 now. So it doesn't really make too much sense.
The Big 16?
The Big 16. Looking at the incoming transfers, the difference really is we had 19 incoming transfers and we had 12 come from Power 5 schools. With 2 other ones coming from Division I AA, in which obviously they were highly regarded. And I think that's just where you see the difference. Is we get 12 players out of the 19 that come in versus 7 out of the 28 that leave that come from good schools. And on top of that, when you look at where the other guys come from, they weren't just like they weren't playing, right? Like the MAC, we got Devin Grant from Buffalo. He was first team defensive player, first team.
I think he's like player all defense or like defensive MVP for the MAC, if I'm not mistaken.
He might have been. I know he made first team. We got one from the American Conference. That was Michael Johnson Jr., the coach's son, who 4-star coming out of high school, came from Florida Atlantic.
Good program.
And then we get 2 from the Mountain West. One, Tank Wilson, who's going to be a starter, and the other one, Justice Ross Simmons. The
Tank started somewhere else, right? Didn't he start at was it Missouri or something like that? Or am I thinking somebody else? I thought he bounced back to New Mexico State to then go somewhere else. It doesn't really matter, but
yeah. So yes, I think he did get out of high school originally. He did go to a better school, but coming from New Mexico State, and obviously Justice Ross Simmons was the number 2 receiver over in Colorado State, and their number 1 is going to be an NFL prospect next year. So, and then I said, getting Witherspoon, an HBCU
huge, man.
All-American, so when you look at the incoming versus the outgoing, and getting a 24, a ranked 24 transfer rank, just kind of put it into perspective, because there's a lot of people that think we lose all these guys, and well, that just kind of give you a perspective of the type of talent we brought in versus the type of talent that we left. Yes, we lost some decent guys, but for the most part, I think that we pretty much doubled the talent that we lost.
Couldn't agree more. And by the way, to your point, I think a lot of those guys were scheme casualties.
Yep.
Like Darton, Leon, even a guy like Bryce Cahoon, who I was excited about. We just, we don't. After Trevor's gone, I don't see us, utilizing that small, shifty guy anymore. It really seems like we're going the Aronde route, right? It's like we're going to get that big flex, and we're going to do it that way. And so I really just think that, all right, we don't need you anymore. We've got 30 receivers that are 6'2" to 6'4" and run 4.3. Sorry, guy.
Yeah, I mean, they're getting a couple track guys that are a little. What's his name? Malachi James. They got
running back.
Though. Yeah, exactly. I mean, can he catch?
Running back. Okay.
Yeah, if he can catch. I mean, you're only fast as a running back if you can break loose. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Dude, but get that guy a screen pass, and it's going to be like, oh my god.
Tank was at Arizona for 3 years before New Mexico State.
Yeah, there it is.
Okay. Well, good work, Joe.
Thanks, buddy.
It's impressive, the outcome and the work you put into it. Okay, let's do this. Let's go through some Believe It or Not. So, if you didn't know, we're on the BLEAV network now, and it'll be our final stay before retirement. I mean, it's not well. Never mind. Okay. Let's do a couple of these. Let's start with Dom. Threw me a couple. He threw me a bunch at once, and so I split them up because I didn't know I didn't know if he wanted to keep them all together and make it one because it's a lot. So I did them individually, and ironically, they all came up in the same outcome. Syracuse football will have a 1,000-yard rusher this year. Believe it or don't believe it. I had one last year, but. He's kind of the only one getting the ball, right? So, with the scheme and what we know this coaching staff is going to try to do, heard that one, Joe. By the way,
those IPAs don't snap like.
That's your sign not to drink.
You got a Voodoo Ranger?
I had a Voodoo Ranger.
Oh. So. I mean, with the scheme, and we know it's going to be a ground and pound kind of offense, and it's going to be a little bit more traditional in that sense. But, I mean, you got a little bit more talent behind LeQuint. So, do you think that we get a 1,000-yard rusher? Joe? Believe it? Don't believe it?
I'm going to say no.
Okay. Well, you're in the 12.7%.
Well, the only reason I say that is because of the unknown and the fact that I feel like we have a deeper running back room. So I'm not so sure that they're going to just lean on LeQuint Allen to be the bell cow.
I mean, fresh legs, man. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it makes all the difference in the world. So.
Right.
Tyler.
I voted yes, and now I'm thinking no because first off, how much is he gonna catch the ball? If this was all-purpose, absolutely.
Okay, fair.
I do think Yasin Willis is better than him right now.
Really?
And so I do.
As a running back.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. As a straight handoff guy, he's better.
Yes.
Because he's going to be. Honestly, might be my favorite player on the team. And that's just off of the spring game and seeing his high school film. Like, I watched him, I was like, that is like literally Ohio State Ezekiel Elliott to a T. And I would like him to be the starter, but that's not going to happen. And so I think LeQuint will probably get like 885 yards, and then Yasin will get like 650. And the total will be well over 1,000, but I don't think it's going to go to one guy.
Yeah.
Anymore.
I'm with you. I think I just think there's too much talent, and I mean, it doesn't take much.
Even Mixon saw the ball at Washington too. So right. I mean.
Well, what if this Malachi James just touches the ball once and he goes 90 yards? Like, that just took all of LeQuint's yards away.
True.
You know what I mean? Like,
same thing, but for a receiver. Syracuse football will have a 1,000-yard receiver this year. Believe it or don't believe it. There's a lot of talent there, too.
They have 2 1,000-yard receivers.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Okay. All right.
He's going Zed and Aranda, huh?
I am. Those are the exact names I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Really?
I can see it with Zed. Yeah.
You don't think Aranda is going to have some kind of hiccup, like getting back into this whole thing? Whole year off? Okay. No skipping the beat for Aranda.
Not for a professional, and that's what he is.
Okay. Well, I like to hear that because I was questioning that today.
All indications are that is the same exact as how he left off. So
that's what I heard, and I know that he's a hard worker, and he's been credited for that. And the guys that are around him a lot have said as much. So I mean, like I said, they're not going to say anything bad. But yeah,
plus with the people around him too, it's not a situation where defenses are like, "Oh, we just got to stop Aranda and that's it."
Yeah, well, we just triple team him, we'll be fine.
That's true because that was the problem.
They tried to do, and he still had a good season 2 years ago.
Yeah,
like so. And if they do that, then Zed's going to be wide open over top, or somebody else is going to be open, and
Meeks is going for 3,000 if that's the case.
Right.
Got to keep the quarterback healthy too. I mean,
Well, there's a lot. Yeah.
Okay. I think I don't vote on any. I'm not allowed to vote on any of these, so I don't. But I guess you've convinced me. I say we have. I don't know if about 2, but I say we have at least 1. I think between the talent and quarterback position and the talent with the wide receivers, I think it's inevitable. So, how about this last one from Dom at Baptized by Fire on Twitter? Syracuse football will have an All-American on defense this year. Believe it or don't believe it. Either one of you can jump in.
I don't believe it. And the only reason I'm going to say that is because as Syracuse, they just don't get respect. I mean,
That's fair.
I'm just saying 3/4 of that team is going to be from the Big Ten and the SEC. Like, let's be honest.
That's fair.
Yeah,
but we do have a couple guys that.
How many are there? 3 teams? First, second, third?
No, I don't think so. I think
it's just first and second, and then honorable mention.
Team?
The All-American team is I don't think there's a first and a second to it. Isn't it just the All-American team is the All-American team and that's it? And then
I read that as first. I read that as first team. I don't really know.
I'm so just stuck on pro sports with all pro and all NBA and whatnot. It's hard for me to. No. If it's just one team, I mean, when they come down to it, let's say Justin Barron deserves it, and there's a guy that has 10 less tackles at Georgia. They're giving it to the guy from Georgia. Like, it's just the way it is. So, especially if they finish top 3 in the country, they're gonna get all the love.
And I mean, who do we really have that can really? I mean, you're talking what? Barron,
Diggs, Barron, Wax. That's it.
It's kind of what I was thinking. One at each level, but it's going to be tough.
Unless a corner for some reason has 9 interceptions, which is possible because of the front that we have now, but it's unlikely.
Yeah.
Did we figure out if there was a first and second team yet?
Oh, am I supposed to be Googling that? Let me check. Sorry.
I just don't know with the corners and stuff. I mean, I think they're still going to be so deep that they're going to be rotating guys. I
agree.
But those safeties, man, with Barron and Chestnut and Elijah Clark, with McDonald and Wax, like, oh god.
So we're so it's hard for me to like comprehend how much talent we have on this team now.
This is ESPN's 2023 college football All-American team. It's just seems like it's just one team.
Okay.
Jaden Daniels, Cody Schrader, Marvin Harrison Jr. So it's one team. Pretty sure. That's what I thought. But
okay. All good.
And they said that's all it's popping up for the Google.
I believe you.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, well, here's Tyler's. Syracuse, well, you didn't quite put it like this. I changed it to be a poll, by the way. That's my bad. To be a believe it or not poll, okay? So Tyler's really was Syracuse, over-under Syracuse football have 1.5 all first-team ACC, but I changed it to Syracuse football have 2+ all first-team ACC. Believe it or don't believe it. Joe, because I already know what Tyler's going to say.
All ACC
I think I do
first
anyway.
team?
Yeah.
I believe it.
Okay.
I believe it.
I think so.
What?
I don't.
I think Aronde gets it by default, so then we just have one other that we need.
Right. Exactly.
Maybe the question's 3.
I mean, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. What if Weatherspoon's the best tackle in the conference? He could be.
Right.
You know. Now are we talking 5?
I mean, all you need is 2+ to be right or wrong on this.
That's fair.
I'm trying to raise the stakes every second.
That's fair, though, because Weatherspoon, I mean, you can only play who's in front of you, right? I mean, he proved that he was, like, the best in the division or the conference or whatever that he played in,
division.
Right?
Like, in the whole, like, he was All-American.
All of HB, yes, right. So then you go to Syracuse, and then you tell Fran, like, I want to play left tackle, and Fran's like, you got to lose 30 pounds. And this dude went and lost 30 pounds, and now this dude's sitting at left tackle. So, yeah, I mean, he very well could be. I mean, you got to figure, I don't think Enrique Cruz allowed a sack last year as left tackle, and he replaced him.
Right. Left a little to be desired in the run game, but...
Fair.
90.5% of everybody that voted believes it.
Awesome.
Next from our buddy David at David Super on the Twitter or the X, whatever that. It's officially not Twitter anymore, right? It's not Twitter.
It is.
It is. It is to me. That's what I'm saying, but I'm always corrected. So I don't know what to call it anymore. ACC championship berth will be on the line November 30th versus Miami in the Dome. Believe it or don't believe it. I think it's possible, but I don't believe it. And it's just pure speculation and me not putting any kind of hopes on anything. I'd rather be wrong and surprised than...
I think my answer would probably... I guess because the way that reads is that could... Are we talking about for Syracuse or for Miami?
Well, we're talking about for Syracuse.
Because it very well
it could be those two. I mean, at that point, honestly...
That, in my opinion, is the most real situation. The winner of that game goes and is the second seed.
I mean, you can look at it either way. Either way, the easiest way to look at it is it's at least on the line for Syracuse. I think it kind of goes without saying that Miami's a shoe-in, right? Right now.
Oh.
Okay. I mean, we don't know, but we don't know really. But I'm just saying.
Clemson.
When their coach forgot how to take a knee, I don't believe anything about them. Until they're taking the knee in the championship game to go to the playoff, I don't believe in them. I just can't.
Cam Ward is a beast, though.
I know.
That's a scary team. And they got Damian Martinez in as running back. Like, they're going to be a problem. I would say I don't believe.
I think it's possible, but I don't believe it myself. the faith without evidence part of this is right now.
There's a better chance that we have a chance to ruin the party for Miami than we are in a position to go to that game, I think.
Well,
in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Well, then maybe what is the question better off than? So let's say Miami's locked in. It's Clemson, Miami. Let's just say hypothetically, they're locked into 1-2. That game doesn't do anything, but it is the difference between us making the playoff or not.
That's what I would say.
Because remember, there's 12 teams.
Yeah,
that's fair. They rest some guys,
with
and
the
then
win, it would vault us up, and they're locked in anyway. So it doesn't really matter what they do.
They rest some guys. We get up to the 3rd seed, and then we don't fall. We have no option of falling because we're not playing in that championship game, and then we end up jumping the loser.
The last team in.
Yeah. I mean, that's going to happen.
Yeah,
it's going to happen.
One of those, like somewhere in the the country, it's going to happen that way.
In one of the conferences, absolutely.
Right.
Then 3rd seed isn't going to make the championship, and then the loser of the championship game will go back behind the 3rd seed. 3rd seed will go to 2, and they'll get in the playoff. It's going to happen.
What happened this past year with Georgia, because they didn't play well. It actually kind of in an inverse way happened, where because Texas was 6th, but they beat Alabama, who beat Georgia, vaulted Georgia, right. And because they were idle, essentially, they moved up. So yeah, it'll happen.
Yep.
So, are you guys gonna give me an answer? We just dissected the whole question. Okay, all right.
I want to. That's my dream.
Okay.
That game being for the title is my absolute dream, but I don't know.
It would be awesome. I'll be in town. I guess I'm not going to find out when that game starts.
To be fair, if that's the case, then I will make my way up to Syracuse for that game.
Well, we'll just have to see.
I cannot, unfortunately.
Well, I'll be there. It's like right after Thanksgiving. It's Saturday after Thanksgiving, so I could go to that game. If that game is at noon, which if that's much is on the line, it won't be. But if that game is at noon, I could leave there right after that game and drive home.
Oh.
Okay. 56.5% of all voters say believe it. So.
Woo.
Kyle McCord will start every game this season. Believe it or don't believe it.
Have to believe it.
You have to have faith in that one, right? Like you're not going to say don't believe it because that's too much negativity.
End of story. Let's go.
Okay, all right. That's an easy one. That was Joe's. Kyle McCord is underrated. Believe it or don't believe it.
I believe it.
I believe it. I think that's an easy one. I don't understand the hate for Kyle McCord. Like I said, I think.
By the way, Justin Fields, C.J. Stroud, and Kyle McCord, and the quarterback before Stroud didn't win national championships. Somehow it's Kyle's fault that they didn't win the national championship. Riddle me that.
It's hate. It's jealousy. That's what I think it is. I think if he stayed there, it'd be different. They'd love him. He left. He abandoned him. Or could he stay?
There was a lot that was going with that. No, I mean, at the end of the day, Ryan Day, he went to him and said that they couldn't guarantee the starting job, which I'm not even
and the
sure
money
they got better.
And the money that he wanted. So it's a little double pronged.
But I don't even think that they got better. They just announced today, I think, the transfer from Kansas State, Will Howard, is going to be their starter.
Who wasn't actually going to start for Kansas State either this year, by the way.
So, I mean, I don't know if they got better. Will Howard can run a little bit better, but, I mean, I guess we'll see. But also, too, I think there was a little bit of some stuff going back and forth because if you remember, there was a season prior to, it was the year before last, or maybe the year before that, when I think it was Stroud that was playing, but essentially, like, Ryan Day kind of messed a whole damn year up of eligibility for.
Yeah, he burned his red shirt for like a kickoff or something like that.
Like he put him in for one series for his fifth game one year, and it blew his red shirt.
Yeah.
So I mean, realistically, this kid should probably still have 2 years of eligibility.
Which you wouldn't use, but, you know, it is what it is.
Okay. The 2024 Syracuse football team will have at least 3 draft picks in next year's draft. Believe it or don't believe it.
Believe.
Okay. All right. 90.9% believe it.
To last year.
85.5% of people believe that Kyle McCord's underrated, by the way. What'd you say, Joe?
Last year we had this conversation. We talked about that, actually. I think this was like a buy or sell or hold or something like that. But we were speaking, and I remember we brought up a whole bunch of people. We're talking about Elijah Clark and Justin Barron and Marlo Wax and all these guys that were going to go to the league. And they didn't.
They're all still here.
It's because they all came back, right? Yeah. So, I mean, last year at this point in time, we thought those players were good enough that, okay, they're going to have one good year and then they're going to be gone. And here they are still with us. So it's good news for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because all those three, 4 guys are still probably going to get drafted.
Well, they got Fran in there fairly quick. You know what I mean? Like there was a pretty fast transition that probably saved a lot of that stuff, I think. But last one, and end the show with our predictions, okay, which we've done every year for a while, and Joe has not picked anything but 6-6 for like the past 5 years. But he's promised.
Right last year.
Yeah, but I mean, eventually, yeah, you're going to nail it if you don't ever change it. You've promised this year that you're not going to choose 6-6, so you've already put some thought in this. As far as the poll goes, how many games will Syracuse football win this year? 1-3, 4-6, 7-9, or 10+. 10+, 22.3 people, and the winner is 7-9, 68.7 people. Percent of people voted think 7-9, which is right around my range. So, who wants to start? Joe, you start since you're not going to volunteer.
So a lot of this year to me is going to kind of hinge on the first 2 games as far as I'm concerned. I'm not worried about them losing to Ohio, but Ohio is a MAC team that's won double-digit games the last 2 years. They had a lot of guys.
Championship last year, right?
Yeah, but they lost a lot of guys to the transfer portal, so it's one of those MAC teams that, you know, they develop some talent and then guys move on to better teams. And I think that we're going to catch them in a year where they just don't have as much talent as they had in the last couple of years. But really, it's that Georgia Tech game. That Georgia Tech game, second week, if we can nail that out, then I'm pretty sure we're going to get past Stanford after a bye week. And with Holy Cross and also, you know, you go 4-0 on the road to UNLV. That'll be a tough one. They got a really good receiver. But if we can start off 5-0 and go into NC State, then to me, like, there's no doubt in my mind that we're winning at least 8 games. So that's kind of where I'm at. I think that Miami, NC State, Virginia Tech, I think, is another team that's really good, that's bringing a lot of talent back. Yeah. But I got us at 8-4. But to me, that's like, if we don't do 8-4, if we do worse than 8-4, then I feel, I'm not going to say it's a bad season, but something happened is really kind of where I'm at with that. So 8-4 with definitely a chance to do better, but to me, 8-4 is where I got it.
Okay. Would you have them losing? I'm just curious.
Yeah, that was my curiosity too.
Because here's, I'm not going to like overanalyze any of this. I'm just purely looking. And Joe, you and I kind of touched on like the way the traveling and shit goes for this coming up next year, which is tough. Mm-hmm. But when I look at it now, just thinking while you're talking, I mean, I can see 5-0, and like you said, Georgia Tech, that's the one. Okay, but it is at home at noon. Yeah. I think that's bodes well for us. And then Stanford, I'm not too worried about. Holy Cross, and then UNLV, like you said, traveling all the way to Las Vegas.
Right.
I mean, there's a chance for 5-0, and then you got Cal and UConn, I mean, I feel like that's 2 more. We're at 7.
Gimmies.
Boston.
Cal isn't.
Huh?
That's the problem.
You gotta be Cal. You gotta be Cal. I mean,
yeah, it's in California, but yeah.
It's the travel to California. They got a running back that's a Heisman candidate. Like,
that's the one then?
Their defense was awful. So, I mean, well, my thing is I think that with Georgia Tech, they're returning 86% of their offense.
You're worried
they're already going to have 2 games in by the time we play the second game. So, to me, like I said, I have NC State and Miami and Virginia Tech as losses, and I think that there's a chance that we're going to get one between either California or Georgia Tech.
Okay, well, that's fair. That's what I was asking, because I had them in 9-3 with those teams.
And at Pitt at Pitt kind of scares me a little bit too, even though Pitt wasn't great last year.
It is time to beat Pitt. I
hope so.
It has to happen.
Saying, we beat them last year, but
Dan the man.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But we just haven't been great historically against Pitt the last 20 years. So
Virginia Tech is on the up. Miami, NC State, obviously. Yeah, there's probably one more in there. You're probably right.
My whole thing is that every single one of the games is winnable. It's just I'm not trying to get too overconfident.
Well,
but if they come out and they go gangbusters against Ohio and Georgia Tech and then Stanford and you in those first 4 or 5 games, then that's going to completely change.
I was going to say, if they go 5-0, do you then go to 9-3?
2.
Okay. All right. Fair. I like that answer. That's a very diplomatic answer. I like it. Tyler, what do you think?
Well, I mean, how much better did Virginia Tech and Georgia Tech get in the offseason? Because honestly, if memory serves, did we beat Georgia Tech last year?
No.
Okay, which was an inexplicable loss.
Wasn't that the Del Rio Wilson game? I think
that was a Dan game.
Are you sure?
I believe. Well, you can look it up, but
okay.
I mean,
I'll look it up.
There are so many games where I look back last year and just go like, if we had Kyle back there, even with the roster we had, like I think we, pull out quite a few more wins. And so I'm just really trying to base this off of how objectively good is the conference. Because I thought last year the conference had a very down year. And so how much better did everybody get compared to how much better we got? And I think that we improved more than any team in the conference. And so I really do think that 3 losses is kind of the max if we beat Georgia Tech. I really do think the whole season hinges on that game, kind of like how when we had Louisville to start off the year a couple of years ago and we started 6-0 and then it all fell apart because everybody got injured. But I'm not planning on that happening again. And so, and of course, my wife scheduled my son's first birthday party through the middle of the Georgia Tech game, and we're having like 70 people over to our house. Even though the next week's a bye week, and that day of the bye week is his actual birthday. Couldn't get that done. I
hope she doesn't listen.
Left wondering on that one. And, it's again, if we're playing Ohio, not a big deal. This is a conference game. You gotta take into consideration. This is a conference game that that's going on. But, all that to be said, I don't remember if I've never seen Syracuse beat Miami. So, okay, that's one I'll give you. But I think we trip up in a weird way. Like we might lose a game that we're not. Like we might beat Cal. We might beat Georgia Tech. We might, slip to like Boston College or something. Just like a stupid game.
That was the game. That was the Del Rio Wilson game last year. Was Boston College?
And that was another inexplicable loss. So it's like, I'm really concerned about like one of those where it's like I would have given another win for that one, kind of like one of those situations, because we have one of those. And so I'm just banking on Fran not doing that. But I really think the best case scenario is just the Miami game as a loss in 10-2, like as my fallback number. But I guess I'll play it ultra conservatively and say 9-3.
Yeah, well, I'm with Joe. I was at 9-3 myself, but I feel like I don't know how you. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like a shoe somewhere is going to drop, and maybe it's not Cal, but maybe it is Georgia Tech. Because I thought about 5-0. Is because they spend a lot of time at home with a bye in there too. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know. I just felt good about it. But like you said, Joe, if they go 5-0, I mean 9-3s, that's within grasp, like without a doubt.
Right. And the thing with that too,
I'm sorry, is there an upset? Is there a game like is it all just chalk, or is there an upset? Like, do they go to NC State and beat NC State?
I was about to ask that same thing.
You know, preseason ranked. What are they, 24th or something? Yeah, well,
it's a possibility.
Isn't that what I mean? Like for me, that's my biggest hang up with every year. It's like we haven't had an upset since we beat Clemson at home or wherever the hell that was. Was that at home? Yeah, it was, right?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. We beat Clemson at home, then we came close next year, and then it's been nothing's come close since. So it's like I want to be competitive, and I want to be there. If I'm there at the end,
will.
If we're there at the end, I'm okay. But I want to pull one of these off. And if it's at NC State or at home against Miami, one of those two, the schedule isn't, or Virginia Tech. That's a home game though. Because I think Virginia Tech's on the cusp.
On our schedule, so we could just put the nail in that guy's coffin.
Who's that?
Wouldn't it be amazing if they just were like, you know what, Dabo, thanks for everything, but y'all lost to Syracuse. Like, we gotta let you go. Wouldn't that just be incredible?
You hate Dabo. I actually like Dabo.
For what reason?
I just like him as a dude. I do. I think he's a good dude. I like him. I don't know. He strikes me as like someone I would like to sit and drink a beer with and have him talk football.
So you can talk about how much you don't want to pay the players.
I mean, I don't give a shit about that.
Look, he still owes me his resignation. He said as soon as we start paying the players, he quits, and he's 5 years late on that promise. So he can make it up to me whenever he wants.
Well, Saban quit. Saban quit when we started playing players. I mean, ultimately that's why he's gone. He can't handle it.
I know.
Look,
I know.
That Georgia Tech game last year was a Valari. It was a Valari game.
Yeah,
it was at Georgia Tech, and it was 31-22 loss. So,
no one answered my question. Is there an upset, Joe? You haven't even chimed in on this. You're too busy looking up the last year's game.
There's not a lot of upset games.
I know. There's three.
Yeah, how big is the spread on all of these games? Like, is Miami 5? Is it 7?
I don't know if we're ever over a touchdown underdog.
I don't think we are either.
And realistically, when I sit back and look at last year, like we had a way more difficult schedule last year than we do this year. And I mean, at some point in the middle of it.
I'm sorry.
What's that?
I didn't mean to interrupt. I hate the new schedule system. I hate Stanford and I hate Cal and all that stuff too.
Yeah, that sucks. It sucks having to go to the West Coast.
Sorry.
We're going to the West Coast.
Sorry.
I don't care. We're
going to the West Coast twice, and we normally never go, right? We're going to UNLV.
When was the last time we went? I don't remember. I can't think of the last time Syracuse played on the West Coast.
At USC 2011.
There you go.
Okay, well, there you go. 2011. 13 years ago?
Yep. I remember it like it was yesterday.
I was... How old was I? 32? Something like that. Anyway.
Maybe it was 2012. Because they came to us one year and then we went to them the next year. But that was it was either 11 or 12.
I think I do remember that, like, home away thing. Well, you're right. There's not a lot of chance for upsets, and I guess we don't know. Like, who knows? Maybe Pitt's going to be an upset by the time we get there. I mean, all this stuff's going to, it's not this.
Pitt?
Well, I'm just saying. I'm being absurd for example purposes. I'm just saying that it could change. Maybe Miami's not an upset by the time we get there. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like maybe we go into that last game of the
hunted.
Right. What if we go in the last game of the season? Go in the last game of the season. We're expected to mop the floor with Miami at home because we're undefeated at home this year. Who knows?
Yeah.
Well, that was my point, right? Last year we started 4-0, and then we had Clemson at home, then at North Carolina, at Florida State, and at Virginia.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
Yeah, that was
four
brutal.
games, boom, 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 and then Schrader got hurt in Virginia Tech, and then after that, it was pretty much a wrap. I mean, we lost to Boston College only by a touchdown with Del Rio Wilson, right? We beat Pittsburgh with Villari only throwing 12 yards.
Del Rio Wilson was like 7 for 17 in that game. It was
he threw 37 yards. Yeah.
Okay, I remember the yards. 37 yards.
But he went out with like a wrap on his leg. He couldn't walk.
Yep.
Remember that?
And then we had played a really good game at Georgia Tech, and then we beat Wake Forest the last after Dino got fired. So I mean, first off, number one, if Schrader doesn't get hurt, then Dino still might be our coach.
Yeah, he would be.
That's number one.
He really would be.
But we look at these injuries and the fact that we actually had a more difficult schedule last year, and I think we returned like the second most production in all of ACC, and then like there's an argument to be had that we did like get better, like compared to everybody else in the ACC, we got the most people coming in as far as more talent and getting better, and then we have an easier schedule. So I mean, I'm sitting here looking at this and I'm talking myself into like, if we are healthy, you know, because I've listened to a couple, like, you know, you go on YouTube and they have like Syracuse preview shows and stuff, and you got these guys talking about it, and they're like, yeah, they're probably going to lose at Boston College and this and that. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, we lost by a touchdown with Del Rio Wilson like last year. Like, we got better.
We had 2 plays.
So
with 2 plays all of the back 6 games, it's like throw Kyle into that situation, throw Garrett, and like, you know, that's. And like you said, I don't know. I'm just like, there is a situation to where it's like, for those who have really paid attention or that are dialed in, like, I really do think that there's like some sort of glimmer of like, wait a minute, like, what if it does just like click? It's like, it is possible. But then again, it's like, we go down the road again of like, okay, like, you know, we're going to take it to Clemson at Clemson. Then we're going to go to Florida State. They don't know what's going to hit. It's like, you know, it's hard to do that every year after getting disappointed every year.
And yeah, we've been conditioned as fans to think something's going to go wrong, right? That's really the thing. I mean, we go 5-0 and they come down to NC State. I'm gonna be going to that game, obviously, and like they come out and they just rail NC State at home, or you know, at NC State. Like, then it's a different story, because then I'm not as afraid of playing Virginia Tech at home.
You need confidence to be built back into your esteem for this team.
100%.
We don't have it. We don't have the confidence. We're used to just it's chalk, and last year it was worse than that. So, I mean, if that's a thing,
talk myself into it with the players and the talent that we brought in.
I know. Like, oh, every week we did it. Every week we did it. Oh well, you know, Dan Villari's doing his thing. You know, they beat whoever the hell they beat. You know, I mean. There was that one game where they beat someone. It was pretty impressive, right? And I think Schrader was at quarterback, and they just kept doing that handoff to Villari thing, and no one was expecting it. Well, the next week they were expecting it, and then the week after that we tried it again, and they expected it, and we just started getting our asses kicked. But
well, it was Pittsburgh. Villari ran for 154 yards against Pittsburgh.
Oh, okay. Well, they were the one. That was a good group to surprise. If anybody deserves it, it's them.
I know. What a blessing.
But you know, we're just like you said, Joe. We're just conditioned, in our spirits have been broke, and so we have no confidence in anything yet. I am excited for the first time, and I'm always excited, but is a different feeling. Like, this whole thing's changed. It's been turned on its head.
It's a new energy, and it's palpable.
Yeah, and it's culture. When culture changes, dude. It's a huge, whether it be a work thing or sports or whatever, changing culture for the good is a game changer anywhere. It just, it's a mind, puts something in people, man. It gives you a different mindset.
And the last thing I'll say is that a third of the roster, maybe more, has never experienced what it's like to go through a Syracuse football season. And the ones that have are all the ones that are good and don't want to see it happen again. So the players believe just as much as anybody that they're just going to go 15-0. You know, like they don't have that snake-bitten, heartbroken, backstabbed, everybody went down in one game and Carlos threw for 7 yards memory. Some of them do, but the ones that do then stuck around are adult enough to get past it and try again. So that's my glimmer of hope right there.
And they see the talent, and there's a lot of leaders on this team.
Right.
There's a lot of mature leaders. There's players that have came from the guys that we brought in came from winning programs or bigger programs. They know how to win. Same thing with the coaches and the recruiting. So, I mean, everything is right there to tell you that it's going to be different. But because it hasn't been for so long, it's just so hard to believe it. And I just hope that I am pleasantly surprised here in a couple weeks.
Well, and I'm sure BLEAV, Virginia Tech is saying, oh, those guys are idiots anyway. So, it's all, we just got to let the games happen. So.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm excited. There is something about sitting in my backyard with something pumpkin spice, watching football on a Saturday afternoon. It's
the best.
There's something to that, though. Like, if summer's going to end, then I have that. I have pumpkin spice to look forward to. Stop shaking your head, Joe. You don't do the pumpkin spice beers? I mean, dude, there are some killer pumpkin spice beers out there. Or pumpkin beers. Killer. There are.
I'm all set.
Really?
Yeah, I'm good.
Wow, okay. All right. I'll send them your way.
Sorry.
I'll send them. I mean, it's fine, dude. Not everybody gets the pumpkin spice thing.
Get here.
I get it. Pumpkin spice all the things. That's what I say. I got pumpkin spice oatmeal.
You're basic.
I am basic. I am.
I'll have some pumpkin spice oatmeal after the Miami game when we're going to the title game. Okay. I will make you that bet.
Okay. You'll love it. You'll love it. So look, I guess
any games?
I'm going to Stanford. Yeah. 20th.
Okay, you're going to be up there for Stanford. I'm going the first game. I'll be up there for Ohio.
I just couldn't make anything else logistically work, unfortunately.
When you leaving for that, Joe? Are we going to do the preview like normal style? So the preview would be on the 27th, Tuesday.
Yeah, I'm leaving Thursday.
All right. And when are you going to do the post game? You going to bring your stuff with you?
From the car.
Post game's gonna be tough. I could bring my stuff and we could do it Monday.
You want to take the first game of the season and do a post game 2 days after the game's been played?
You got to do it from a payphone outside the dome as you're on the way out.
I'm not gonna have enough quarters for that. What's it?
You better
Sean,
start planning. Start planning, my guy.
I'm going to start planning.
Tyler and I will be here on Sunday.
I'll be a fill-in. Sure. We'll get a guest. We'll bring somebody else on. And everybody will forget Joe's even on the show.
Yeah, I'll be like, Joe who?
Yeah. I'm happy.
The first game. This dude's been bugging me about football for I don't even know how long. Now, look, he has given me my space. I've been allowed to enjoy my summer. I had tons of PTO this summer, so I had tons of great times, and I didn't have to worry about podcasting every other week because that's what we usually tries to get me to do. So he's giving me my space. However, this dude is so excited about football and podcasting. The first game of the season, he's going to wait 48 hours before he does a post game.
He is also putting his money where his mouth is, and he's going to the game.
Right, but is he going to be dead the next day? Are you going to be alive?
I have a noon live fantasy football draft and then a 6 p.m. live fantasy football draft.
So we'll podcast at 10 in the morning.
Okay.
I can't have you do that to me. Monday's not good. Tuesday's a pregame.
Okay. I'm just saying from noon on.
I hear you. 10 o'clock. We'll talk about it later. It's fine.
I don't schedule these things.
Well, I know. I get it. It's bad timing. That's all. In your defense, this is the first time you're going to your fantasy football draft thing live for the past
I haven't been
few
back
years.
to Syracuse since before COVID, man.
So,
I haven't been to Syracuse in over 2 years. I went for Thanksgiving or something like that a few years ago.
Yeah. Couldn't go last year because I, had a child delivered on week 2, but looking forward to taking him this year. It'll be fun.
Yeah, that will be fun. It's only the older they get, the funner it gets. So I got
as I have come to see. It's been pretty special, man. And he enjoys sports, but I'm gonna definitely push him towards Red Autry and crew because playing football is for insane people. So,
he's gonna have the height.
Trust me, he will.
He's what, 4 foot right now?
He's gonna be way bigger than me. He's gonna be way bigger than me.
You think so? You're 6'5"?
Yeah.
You're 6'5"?
6'4". But he's just gonna be a big dude. He already is. I mean, his hand came out like ready to palm a basketball, like straight out the womb.
Okay, that's fair.
Look, flag football is becoming an Olympic sport, so it's only a matter of time before flag is a high school sport and everything. So,
if he wants to play in high school, he can play in high school. And if he gets 25 offers, which he probably will, he'll probably go play. But, the Pee-wee and the Pop Boy, it's nonsense. I could train him. Michael and I could train him in the backyard 10 times as good and not play against, other 10-year-olds. So, bash his head in.
It's tough to get a good coach for those. I had a good coach, though.
Yeah.
There's something to be said, too, of, growing up and putting the wear and tear in your body and getting a little older and being like, why did I do that?
Yeah.
So many
for
things.
Sure.
So, yeah. I know I'm feeling it. I'm not 27-year-old hip replacement over there like the window guy, but I'm
double hip replacement. Double.
Yeah, I don't want to tempt it though. I'll tell you that much.
I mean, I'm 41 and I feel it. I feel the wear and tear I put on my body between sports and the military for sure.
I'm 45 and I feel it every day. So, sitting in this stool, I'm feeling it right now. There's no back to this thing. I'm doing the whole back arch thing. It's freaking killing me right now. That's why I stand up sometimes. Okay.
Yeah, it's not really ergonomically good for you over there with that stool.
It's not. The 27th, we'll be back for an Ohio Bobcats preview. Fair? So,
beautiful.
No, so next week. Technically, it's next week. So, all right. If you're still listening, we appreciate it. We dragged that out to an hour and a half over talking about nothing. Busting Joe's chops on trying
utter
to skip out
nonsense.
of the... Yeah. So, anyways, that's going to do it for us. We appreciate all of you for hanging in there and listening. Like I said, we'll be back the 27th, and we'll get the spaces going back on X on Monday. For Joe, I'm Sean. For Tyler and Joe, I'm Sean. We're out.
Peace.